Welcome. Thanks for joining us here. And this morning, it's Wednesday morning, middle of the week, Bible study at 3:30 this afternoon and 7 o'clock this evening. And we just have a wonderful God, wonderful opportunity to serve Him. Sunday morning, if you weren't here, I preached quite a bit. I preached on our future, heaven and hell, but didn't give much attention to hell, probably not as much as I should have. But I enjoy talking about where we're going to be. I enjoy the thought of seeing loved ones. I enjoy the thought of great Christians who have struggled in this world, whether it be financially or in other areas of life, health or home, and to know that we're going to see them one day getting their just rewards. God is faithful, and a lot of poor, godly old saints, a lot of people who've been abandoned by family, who stood for God. Some of you know the story of Charles Weigel, who wrote "No One Ever Cared for Me Like Jesus," and he was an evangelist, and his wife told him, "Either you quit the ministry or I'm leaving you." And he thought about it, and he thought, I just can't. I can't quit. What God has called me to do, I cannot quit doing. And so she did leave him. And he went through, if I remember the story right, about a year, a long time of great depression. Just a struggling time. It's hard to be a preacher and talk to people about the things of the Bible when your family has not gone well. But the fact is, it doesn't change anything. The truth is still the truth. And he ended up writing that song. I would love to tell you what I think of Jesus, since I found in him a friend so strong and true. He's never going to abandon you. But I think of a Charles Weigel and his welcome home, and lots of great Christians, people who've their hearts have been broken. Many of you know the name Adoniram Judson, and Judson was brilliant. I mean, intellectually a brilliant man, and in his youth, he early on in life, his intellect blossomed in reading other languages, and his dad was a Church of England pastor, and he just broke his parents' heart. And as Judson got older, he traveled. He did a lot of wrong, went a lot of wrong places. And the story of his conversion was when a friend that he had gone off into the world with died a miserable, horrid, wretched death and suffering, and just inexplicably. And they didn't know that they were each in the same hotel, and there were rooms right next to each other. And anyway, long story short, Adoniram Judson went home, came to his parents, and explained that he had put his faith in Christ, and he was no longer the skeptic and the critic and the scorner. And boy, I tell you, I think about some of the scorners and critics I know, and I think I'd love to see them get saved. And just because they've been in church doesn't mean they're saved. That only God knows. I would have said that I'm guessing all the 11 apostles thought Judas was saved, yet Jesus called him the son of perdition. So Adoniram Judson became the great missionary to India. And where would we be if God didn't rebuild after broken hearts and after suffering, physical suffering, emotional suffering, family suffering? But I look forward. We have a happily ever after. Well, I can tell you, we have got a happily ever after. And I could preach on heaven all the time, and I love the teaching and the doctrines of it, and putting all the verses in their place. But there is a hell, and people will die and go to hell. And if they don't get saved, and they're not going to get saved, how shall they hear except there be a preacher? Somebody's got to go tell them, and that's our job. I want to take a moment here and just go through some verses in Proverbs and maybe one in Psalms about the scorner. And let me tell you what got me here. As I was listening, the brother and sister, the sister's done with college, brilliant musically, just a great young lady. Her brother in engineering school. And I was listening again. I have a recording of them playing an offertory, and I was listening to them and remembering when we knocked on the door of those kids' grandparents. Their mother was a little girl, and I was thinking about they weren't sure they'd be welcomed at our church. The grandpa's black, the grandma's white, and so I sent one of our couples over there. There was a mixed marriage also, and assured them, "You will be welcomed here." And the kids grew up, married. The grandkids are all grown now, and I think I'm so glad we knocked on doors. I'm so glad that we took time to go out into the community. And by the way, before you get to their door, you're going to get a lot of doors where no one answers the door and no one pays attention. But this morning, just thinking about them, and then just recently, in the last week or two, I was at someone's home who was also a product of somebody in our church witnessing to them. And the husband had been, from his teen years into his adult years, pretty active Mormon, active enough that he spoke in the services, and they'd call him on occasion, and he'd do the lesson. And they don't, I guess they don't do like us, where the same pastor does most of preaching. But I sat in the home with this couple where the man had been so involved in the Mormonism, and I thought, where would they be had someone not witnessed to them, had someone not gone out of their comfort zone to explain the gospel. And the message, it was interesting. The husband said, when I started coming to your church, he said, the thing that made the difference is your message had a message. Your message had substance, and there was something real there. And I just think, where would we be? Where would we be? Where would these people be had someone not stepped out of their little world and said, I'm going to reach out to the world around me? My soul winning partner, not all Saturdays, I'll go out with the same man. And he and his wife got saved over 40 years ago here. I was knocking on doors and met a widow on this one street, and then there was no one home in these other houses. Well, the next week, the widow came and brought her next door neighbor and their family. I want to say kids came too, but I can't remember. I know the husband and the wife came, but I think there were children in the family. And they came a couple of weeks, and then maybe the second week they came, they brought the wife's brother. He'd been living in Los Angeles, just out visiting the weekend, had a good job there, single man, sharp, and he came along with them that second week, maybe third week, something like that. And he said, he's told the story many times, he said, I found what I was looking for. And he'd researched various religions and had excelled in career, from electrician to surveying to professional. He was a professional magician, and wow, was he ever good! Especially in the early days of our church, he'd do magic at some of our church things, and just a pleasure. Now, after these 40 years, his wife has been teaching and teaching for 35 years, I'm guessing, and the husband preaches in the jail, preaches in Spanish and in English, goes out soul winning, and has taught and preached in every area of ministry, been a bus captain and other things. And I think, where would they be? Where would they be had someone not gone looking for them? What would have happened to them, and what would have happened to their children had someone not, and their grandchildren, had someone not been willing to go out and share the gospel? And I could think through people in our church, family after family, people that that are more recently saved, people that have been saved a long time, and I just want to. And again, I could tell stories forever, probably on the wonderful stories of people who got saved, whose lives are changed. Just thinking of one guy, we met a family out knocking on doors. They were saved, but they were out of church. They started coming, and the dad brought a coworker, and he was a drunk. He was a mess, but he was getting cleaned up, and he did. He got straight and doing well, but he had been a drunk. Well, I think by the time we met him, he was sober, but he was coming out of that world. And we were going to downtown LA to preach at a rescue mission. Just brought some of our folks from the church along to sing and share testimonies. And we got there, and this guy looked at me and said, "Hey, I've been here before." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I used to live here." He was on Skid Row and had messed up his life, and now here he is coming with us to share the gospel. And where would these people be had someone not loved them and denied themselves to go talk to people and give them the gospel? What a mess! What a mess our world would be. And I go on and on, but on the other side, I just wanted this morning, I want to parallel. There's the scorner, and there's the faithful Christian. I've never met a scorner who helped people find a better church. They just want to slander and criticize. I've never met a scorner who wants to help somebody's marriage. They just want to criticize and malign people who are trying to do right. Let me just go through some verses with you. Of course, Psalm 1, "Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful." Psalm 1:1. You want to be blessed? You cannot sit in the seat of the scornful. And there are people who are going to attack Christianity. They'll attack all forms of Christianity. They'll attack fundamental Baptists. They'll attack the mega church movement. They'll attack the devil's crowd. Just hates God and hates church, hates the Bible, hates religion, hates Christianity. And I don't know if the devil's crowd hates religion as much, but he sure hates Christianity. But the people who I've heard critics over the years, and I've never met a critic who helped anybody. I've never met a critic and a slanderer who helps. So first of all, if you want to be blessed, you can't hang out with the scorner. You just get, "Nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful." But let me just look at some Proverbs with you. Proverbs chapter 9, and I just scribbled some down here so they'd be right at my hand without me having to dig through. Proverbs, I've marked my margins up so they're pretty easy to find. But Proverbs 9:7 says, "He that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame." Verse 8, "Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Give instruction to a wise, or rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee." The scorner, you can't teach a scorner anything. You can't. I know some of you say, "Well, I want to get the facts so I can explain to this person." You cannot reprove a scorner. They'll hate you. You can bring all the facts, and they will hate you. They'll hate you for having the facts. Don't we see that in politics? Don't we see that around the life of Charlie Kirk and the administration of President Trump? Show them the unemployment status. Show them the stability. Show them the economy. Whatever. Show them fact. They don't have a head problem. They got a heart problem. And so you try, and that's why people, they don't know what to say. You give them facts, they hate you. Give them more facts, they'll throw a rock at you. They'll try and kill you. And that's the scorner. Chapter 13, verse 1, "A scorner heareth not rebuke." And there again, and sadly, sometimes our children become scorners. You can, the devil will try and blame you as a parent. You're not a good enough parent, blah, blah, blah. You know what? There are kids who grew up with unsaved parents, drunk parents. There's all kinds of people who've raised their kids, and they went ahead and they did the right thing. And the kids are going to do right because they want to do right. Kids are going to be bad because they want to be bad. And this dumb culture we're in now that helps people point fingers. You have a problem because your dad didn't take you enough ball games. That's a stupid idea, absolutely stupid idea. It's ridiculous. You do what you do because you want to do. Now, it might be an easier road for some than others. But the bottom line is you got to make some decisions. These scorners, you're a scorner. A scorner won't listen to you. They will not. And again, I never followed Charlie Kirk that much, but because since his death, I've noticed him a lot. And he'll let people ask him a question, he'll try and answer them, and they'll yell back before he can answer. You know why? Because they can't hear rebuke, they can't hear instruction, they won't hear instruction. And just the people who criticize your church, the people who criticize your Bible. I know people who will throw a fit because we believe the King James Bible is the Word of God. And you try and give them any facts, they just get mad at you. I think, look, I'm just giving you information. How come you have an attitude? You don't have to agree with me. You can read the Quran. You can read Good News for Modern Man. You can read whatever you want. I'm just telling you some facts. Don't get mad at me because the facts prove you wrong. But chapter 14 and verse 6, a scorner seeketh wisdom and findeth it not. But knowledge is easy to him that understandeth. See, when you love God and humble yourself before God, you can learn. But a scorner can't learn. A scorner, they'll pretend to look for wisdom, but really all they're looking for is information to help them be a better scorner. And it might be they're critical of politics. They might be critical of your church, our church. Might be critical of a person, and often they do end up on a person. They want to get that laser focus on the person who's in charge, and so they want to shoot the president. They want to get rid of. They're not after Turning Point USA. They're after Charlie Kirk. They're not after. They don't like Faith Baptist and other independent fundamental Baptist churches, but they want to get the pastor. They want to hurt him. Proverbs 15, verse 12. A scorner loveth not one that reproveth him, neither will he go to the wise. You know, when a scorner comes to you, they're saying you're a fool. A scorner won't go to a wise person. They don't believe the person's wise. That's why these reporters, you've heard the reporters in the press meeting with the press secretary or even with President Trump, and these reporters, and they're throwing out. Then as soon as you start to give them a good answer, then they bounce over here to another question, and they're just scornful and scornful and scornful, and it is just sad. But he says, a scorner loveth not one that reproveth him, and neither will he go to the wise. A scorner doesn't believe you're wise. You could have every answer in the world. If they thought you were truly wise, they wouldn't come talk to you. They think you're a fool. But it says in the beginning of verse 12, a scorner loveth not one that reproveth him. You try and correct a scorner, they will hate you. They will find a way to attack you. And it might be your child doing that to you. And as a parent, I would just have to distance myself from my kids. I'm not going to fight with you. Remember David with his son Absalom. He said, I'm not going to fight. I just won't. And David left town. I'm not going to fight with my wife. I'm not going to fight with my children. I'm not going to fight. I'm amazed at times people will sit on the phone and have someone scolding them and chewing them out on the phone. And I want to say, you see that red button? That stops the call. Push the button and cut them off. And you say, well, I don't want to be rude. Hey, it doesn't matter what you do. They're going to hate you. They just want to vent themselves. And you're not going to cuss me. You're not going to. I have a few times over the years sat and listened to someone just malign me, and I realized, you know what? There's no value in this. And so if somebody's going to come and all they've got is an axe to grind to try and tell me how I'm a horrible person, well, you know what? You don't need to tell me that. Just find another church or vote me out of the church. I don't care. Do whatever you want to do. I'm here as long as God wants me to be here, as long as he wants me to be here. I couldn't be anywhere else. But and I love where we are right now, that there's so much, I feel so loved and very, very much a part of things. And don't, some of you that love me, are people trying to hurt you, preacher? No, they're not. I am very happy and very content with where things are. Proverbs 19:25. Here's what he says. What do you do with the scorner? Proverbs 19:25. Smite the scorner, and the simple will beware. You smite the scorner, they don't learn. You smite the scorner, so the simple people say, I ain't going to be like that. And that could be a child in your classroom. Could be your own child. And you don't need to physically smite him, but here's a kid who's acting up, and I say, hey, you're not going to act that way. And he acts up some more. And when I realize I can't keep this kid's attention, I'll move him a little bit further away from the others, separate him somewhere. I just say, hey, leave my class. And I want the kids in the class to know you're not going to get away with that. And that's why when we let in California, steal $1,000, $900 worth of stuff when no one's going to do anything. Well, all you're doing is breeding more theft. You need to smite the scorner. When sentence is not executed speedily, Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes, when sentence is not executed speedily, the heart of the wicked is fully set in them to do evil. If you do not punish the wicked, their heart gets locked in on that evil. And so here he says, you're not going to punish the scorner so that he learns, because he's not going to learn. You punish the scorner so the simple learn. Because simple in the book of Proverbs is that person who's young and inexperienced. You've got the fool, the wise, the scorner, the simple. And the simple is the one who's not had a lot of experience yet. He's learning, and so you smite the scorner. So if the scorner's by himself, no point in correcting him, rebuking him, punishing him privately, because he's not going to learn. And no one's there to get instruction from seeing the scorner. So, just drop him, just be done with him. There's no point in it. I would love to tell some stories, but there's no point in it. The people that are sincere don't need the answers, and the people that are scornful, they're not going to buy it. I don't love it, but I've sat with bringing the facts in a situation and seen a very trustworthy, honorable Christian lie under oath. And I'm shocked. I can't believe you would do that. But they will not admit they're wrong. They will not admit that that truth is truth. And it's just tragic, the mess. And I remember one time that I made a stand of sorts. I said, I think this is what we should do. I think this is the right thing to do. And everybody involved in it said no. And I said, well, it's your life. You do whatever you want. But this is the right thing to do. And we're talking about multiple people. It doesn't matter. And people of different careers, not all family, but some family, some not family, some church people, some not. And I said, here's the right thing to do. Years and years and years pass. And it was very obvious that I was right. And then people are mad at me because we didn't do the thing that was the right thing to do. I was the only one pushing to do the right thing. I'm honest, I was the only one. And all the people involved said this, and I said no, that. And then after years and years and years, they're all mad at me because we didn't do this. Well, I said, don't get mad at me. I'm the only one who wanted to do that. But you can't teach a scorner. You can't correct a scorner. And so what do? You just keep them at a distance and love them. And I love these people, but we're not going to be buddies. But Proverbs chapter 21, and look down at verse 11. When the scorner is punished, the simple is made wise. And so there again, you're not fixing the scorner. You're fixing the one who's watching the scorner. And it's so important that we grab that truth that you're not going to fix the scorner. And I know often you with your coworkers, your children, your whoever, employees, you think if I could just help them understand, it's a heart problem. And they are behaving from the heart. They're not behaving from the head. Why would an alcoholic beat up his wife or children? Because his heart is making the decision, not his head. Now, his head might be muddled from all the booze, but why would a drug addict steal from their family? Because the drug addict is being moved by the body, the flesh, and the heart, not the head, not good, clear thinking. And sometimes a mom will say to a kid, "What were you thinking?" They weren't. They were behaving from the heart. And that's why in Proverbs he says, "My son, give me thy heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways." You know what I need for my children more than anything else? I need their heart. Because if I can get my kid's heart, I can teach them anything. But it goes from the heart to the head, not the head to the heart. And it's a very delicate thing. And even in the ministry, if you have a Sunday school class, or as me as a pastor, you're in a ministry of some kind, you've got to convince those people that you love them so that their heart is tied to your heart. And then if your hearts are tied, then your heads can communicate. But without unless it's a salesman selling you new solar, or new front lawn, or bug spray and exterminator or something, they've got facts coming to your facts. But when you start talking about a scornful spirit and a bitter spirit, those people, they are impossible to logic with, or to convince, or to change, because they did not get where they were by way of facts, and they will not get back from where they are by way of facts. They have a heart problem, and it's a tragedy. So the only thing you can do is just get on the people who are a mess, so that others who watch can learn. The scorners punish the simple is made wise. But when in the end of verse 11, when the wise is instructed, he receiveth knowledge. You could teach a wise person and they just sucking it up. Teach me Bible. Teach me how to drive. Teach me how to tie my shoes. Doesn't matter whether a little child or an adult. Teach me how to do whatever. Except when it gets to technology. Some of us that are older, don't teach me. And I heard Sam Gipp, great preacher friend of mine. He says the guy I hate more than anyone is the one who upgrades my phone. Leave my phone alone. I just get it figured out, and then they update things, and I can't find it. And then as you get older, you don't want new technology stuff going on. Proverbs 22, verse 10, cast out the scorner. What do you do with the scorner? Cast them out. Cast them out. That's Bible. Say, oh, well, I just love everybody. Yeah, I can love you. Just you stay over there. Get out of here. Because we don't need, you're not a help. The scorner is not a help. I don't care. I just don't care. Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out, yea, strife and reproach shall cease. I am not trying to draw any scornful people to me. It's not my desire. People that have been critical of you and your job or your home or whatever, don't hate them. Pray for them. Pray God bless them. Pray God would help them. But don't try to draw them back. You want the scornfulness and the criticism back? No way. Let it stay. Let them be mad at somebody else. Let me see. Let me show you one more. 24 verse 9. Proverbs 24 verse 9. The thought of foolishness is sin, and the scorner is an abomination to men. Now this is important. The scorner is an abomination to men. I don't need to try and defend myself to everybody about what a scorner is saying. The scorner will eventually bury himself. People will eventually know the scorner is a scorner. Now, it may take a while. I remember the first time I heard President Obama speak, I thought, this guy is bad. He is evil. He's un-American. He is not a constitutional American. He is not a patriotic American. This guy is not a true flag-waving American. And I was done. I never listened to him again. If he came on the radio or whatever, I just shut it off. I'm not going to listen. He'd already shown his colors. He'd waved his flag. But on occasion, it's been years now, over the years since he was president. You know what? He's the one, and his wife says, for the first time, I'm proud to be American. She didn't love America. You see him, just all the little nuances and leaving a bunch of money on the tarmac of a Muslim nation, giving them millions and millions of dollars. That's not what an American does. But see, a scorner eventually will be known. And I know very few people that have any respect for President Obama anymore. As a former president, I would treat him with respect, but not him. It's his position. As a former White House, as president, I would treat him with courtesy and respect. I'd treat anybody with courtesy and respect. Could be a homeless person, I'm going to treat him with courtesy and respect. But when people are scornful toward America, just go away. I don't want to hear it. I heard Charlie Kirk put up with things. I think you are gifted, man. I could not put up with these people because they're not going to change. They're not going to be convinced. But he was using their criticism. Smite the scorner, and the simple will beware. People around were learning, as they heard the scorner corrected, because people out there were willing to listen. The scorner, I don't know if anybody ever came and was beaten in an argument that said, "There I am, I'm a conservative." I don't know if it's ever happened. They get guns and they shoot people, and they're wicked, they're satanic, horrible, horrible thing. Proverbs 29 verse 8. I'll just do one more. Proverbs 29 and verse 8. Scornful men bring a city into a snare, but wise men turn away wrath. Scornful men bring a city into a snare. The person who's scornful, who scorns, a person who's critical and slanderous, and they ruin a place. They just ruin a place. Look what the BLM riots did. They just ruined cities. They destroyed communities. Now, let me go back to where I started. We knock on doors, and we meet these dear people. And I'm thinking of a missionary, one of the finest, godliest Christian women you'd ever want to meet. And missionary wife, she speaks at ladies' conferences, just great lady. Somebody knocked on her door, got her ride in our Sunday school bus. And I can still see her, the little girl, 9, 10 years old, blue jeans and a T-shirt, just a ragamuffin little kid, jumping off the bus. And whoever took the picture, I think she's in the air. Just kids. I couldn't jump for anything. And she's in the air. Aren't you glad somebody knocked on her door? Aren't you glad somebody helped pay for a bus? Aren't you glad somebody drove the bus? Aren't you glad somebody visited her week after week? In the early days, she said, I came those early days for the candy. And don't be critical of candy. There's some kids come for the candy, but they're listening as they get the candy. She ended up in our Christian school. Her brother, she sold candy bars to keep her tuition paid. She ended up in Bible college, married a guy who rode a bus, same story, in L.A., and they get married. They're down in the mission field now. Hey, show me, scornful person. Show me, critic. Whose life have you changed? Whose life have you helped? Whose world has been turned upside down for good? Come on, the scorner never built a thing. The critic never built a thing. And again, I think of, just thinking of pastors now and missionaries and out soul winning. On a Wednesday afternoon, we meet a young man, high school kid. We happened to be back in the days, there was a Thrifty, and Thrifty had ice cream. So at the end, when we were done soul winning, we'd take all the teenagers and buy them all an ice cream cone. I think it's like 30 cents a scoop in those days. And hang around outside, maybe 10, 20 teenagers soul winning. And we meet this guy. He gets saved. Follow up on him. Meet his brother, meet his mom. Well, his mom still goes to church, but the brother of the guy that we met, he's a pastor today. I'm so glad we are not scorners. I'm so glad we go out talking to people, and I could go on and on. The people in the ministry scattered around the country in America, and then going to other countries. These young men and young ladies who've packed up and gone around. A scorner can't show you their trophy case of wonderful marriages and happy homes and people. I don't know how many times people have said, Pastor, if we had not met you, there's no way we'd have still been married. We'd have lost our marriage. And one couple had said that to me. It was the wife's fifth marriage, if I remember right. She said, we'd never made it without you, Pastor. I thought, well, you proved that 4 times before. But don't you want to be a part of a builder? Don't you want to be a part of helping people's lives get better? And the scorner never helped a soul. All the scorner does is they're like a manure spreader. If you've never been on a farm, they have a machine they pull behind a tractor, and they'll dump it full of this manure, and it's got these little arms that just spin. and it just, as the manure pours out, it just scatters it. And there's a lot of people there just manure spreaders. They just make the world a stinky place. The only problem is manure is better than a critic, because a manure helps things grow, and critics never helped anybody grow. Hey, look, I just want to encourage you. If somebody's been critical of you, you just do right. You'll sit, and you'll sit by the hour. What could I say to them that'll help? Nothing. How could I help them understand? How could I explain the truth to them? They don't want the truth. Scorners do not want the truth. That's just the bottom line. So you know what we can do? Let's just keep seeing lives changed. We got kids in Bible college right now. I think we got kids in four different Bible colleges at least, and then of course we have young people in secular colleges. But these kids in Bible college, some grew up in Christian homes. Some of them, they never sat in church with a parent. And we got one of our young men in Bible college right now, sharp young man. And I've met his parents because I've been to his home, but his parents don't go to church. You know, a bus worker, knocked on his door. And when he was like 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old, he started riding a bus and rode a bus all through his teen years. And now in Bible college, training for the ministry. And you know what? Isn't it great to be a part of something good? The scorner will never be able to say that. And let's don't let us get scornful, because a scorner can get you to start being scornful toward them. Don't do it. Don't follow down their path. Let's just love people. Let's love God, love his book, love his people, love his church. And let's be busy for the things that are eternal.